Hey guys, it's Jill. Jen and I wanted to give you a heads up about the content on today's episode. It may be triggering for more sensitive audiences. Refer to the show notes for more specifics. And take care while you listen.
On this episode of Common Mystics, we reveal a surprising twist as another voice comes through to give his perspective on the events leading up to the Trail of Tears. I'm Jennifer James.
I'm Jill Stanley.
We're psychics.
We're sisters.
We are common mystics. We find extraordinary stories in ordinary places. And today's story comes to you from Fort Payne, Alabama.
I feel like I've been saying this a lot. This is fucking wild. It really is. And so if you guys didn't listen to episode 124 about John Ross, do that right now. Like, stop, do not move forward, go back, listen. Because this, ironically enough, is like an extension of that show. It's insane.
It is. And we had no idea that this voice was going to come through.
But now that we found this voice and this voice coming through, some of our commentary on that episode makes sense.
Yes, because he was coming through even then, but we didn't realize it.
Dude's pissed. I ain't gonna he has something to say. He is dead and motherfucking angry, and he ain't gonna take it no more.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's get into reminding our listeners what we were doing and how we are operating on this very special road trip from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Boom, hit me up.
We were in Chattanooga for our niece Kelly's wedding. Beautiful. And we had used our hotel in Chattanooga as our home base and took the opportunity to explore the wider tri-state area. Tennessee, Alabama, where else? Georgia, exactly. And so we were doing that. And on the first day, you may recall, we found John Ross's voice from episode 124, The Trail of Tears. And we also found A Legacy of Love, episode 125, all about Elmira Steele and Lillian Jennings, the orphan girl, right?
Yes, that's all very true.
Yeah.
And so day 2, because remember, day 1 was raining. We're like, we're staying in the area. We're not going out of Chattanooga. We're going to stay here. Day 2, we find this story. And like I say, I cannot even believe this is happening. So Jen, we set our intention in the car. What is our intention?
Our intention was, as it always is, to ask the spirits to lead us to a verifiable story previously unknown to us that allows us to give voice to the voiceless.
That's right. You do it so well.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. So we head into Alabama, and because I work in the recycling industry, if you didn't know, it's a whole thing. And Jennifer hates it. She hates recycling.
It's just boring. It's just always boring. Continue.
And I got a call about recycling in the car, and Jennifer was like, this is bullshit, but she wrote it down because she felt like it was a breadcrumb.
That sounds like me.
I said, good music comes out of Alabama. Now, I don't know why I said that because I really cannot name any music that comes out of Alabama.
Plus, we're not country music people, so we don't even listen to most music that, comes out of the South, Nashville, that area, right?
Right. So that's weird. And Jen, what are you feeling in the car?
I was feeling a plantation, and that a plantation was pivotal to whatever we were picking up on.
And I was feeling strong connection to the land. Like many people have strong connection to the land there.
Right. And I was getting information about a fierce fighter known for bravery who was also bilingual and spoke more than one language.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So we entered DeKalb County, and we noticed there's a lot of farmhouses. And the thing is that the farmhouses felt like they were obstructing our view of like the past. Like we're like, these don't belong here. It feels out of place. It was very strange.
Right. Because they were too new.
They were too new.
Too new, too modern. And we're like, yeah, this doesn't belong here.
So we're driving around, and then We stop in front of a textile recycling plant in Fort Payne.
Thrilling.
Well, if you recall, we made a turn, and that turn, we were like in Fort Payne, and we were feeling very connected to the people there, and how like it felt like we knew them. It felt like we knew these people. They felt familiar. Crazy, because I don't know anyone from Fort Payne, Alabama.
No, neither do I. Neither do I.
Give me some background history. Give me the deets on DeKalb County, Alabama.
Okay, so obviously we were in Fort Payne, which is the county seat of DeKalb County, Alabama. And there's a long and interesting history that goes back before its official founding on January 9th of 1836. DeKalb County, Alabama, is located in the northeastern part of the state, in an area that was originally part of the land occupied by the Cherokee Indian Nation.
I know them.
Yes, we talked about them quite a bit 2 episodes ago. But the European settlers arrived there during the American Revolution when Alexander Campbell, a British agent not related to the soup, I knew you were going to ask that. The answer is no. No relation.
How do you know? Did you research that?
I did not. It's a hunch, Jill. Call it a hunch.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we should research it before we present it, but whatevs.
Mr. Campbell, a British agent, came to the area to rally the Cherokees against the southern colonies. In 1777, Campbell set up his headquarters at a place called Willstown, a Cherokee village on Big Wills Creek, near what is now Lebanon. Lebanon, Alabama, or Tennessee, Jill?
Alabama.
Campbell managed to get some of the Cherokees on board, promising them clothing and land in exchange for the scalps of white settlers.
Damn.
What? How do you promise something like that?
He's savage. He's like, bring me a scalp and I'll give you a cloth. Like, what is that?
I don't know. That is savage.
That is savage. Okay, so after the Cherokee...
Wait. Let's think this through. So I think he's saying if we like fight these Southerners together, right? Because Campbell wanted to enlist the Cherokees' help into fighting the Southern colonies, right? He's like, if we win, then you can have the scalps off their heads, is what he's saying.
He's saying that you guys fight these white people. You know you don't want these white people around here.
Okay.
And you guys fight the way you fight. I'm going to fight the way I fight. And then to prove that you're really fighting them, bring me some scalps.
Oh.
And then when you bring me the scalps, I will give you clothing.
Oh,
and
shit.
like,
Shit. What do you think that barter system was like?
What do you
like
think?
A shirt? A shirt is like 2 scalps. Some trousers or 3 scalps. What the fuck?
And then what do you do with the scalps? And how do you know that we're not reusing the scalps? Like if you just toss out the scalp, like I just walk around the building and take a scalp and be like, right?
Wow.
They don't know.
Wow. That is badass. All right, sorry. Thank you for clearing that up.
Are they scanning the scalps?
Scanning them.
Are they marking them used scalps or already rebated scalps? We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know how it worked. So many questions.
Oh,
wow.
We have to get, yeah.
Okay.
So after the Revolution, the Cherokees they continue to live in the area. But more and more Europeans start arriving from like the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee.
Of course.
And missionaries come because missionaries always come because they want to talk to you about the Lord.
Yes, they do. And they came to try to convert the Cherokee people in particular to Christianity.
It's annoying today, but how annoyed would you be if you were just like a Cherokee person and someone's knocking at your cabin door and being like, have you found the word of God? Wouldn't you be like, please move on? Please move on.
Yeah, that would be soups annoying. And the missionaries from the Presbyterian Church Board of Missions sent missionaries to establish the Willstown Mission. So it was a town mission right in the center of this Cherokee village.
It's such bullshit.
And the point was to teach Christianity to the Cherokees.
Annoying.
Super annoying.
I wish the Cherokees would have taught us some spirituality.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah, wouldn't that be like
Like a
plot
reverse
twist?
mission. Yeah.
Yes. Like, you know what? You're talking a lot about your God. Let's
Like,
talk about our gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if any of them tried that.
I hope they did. I hope they went knocking on their door, being like, "Can we talk to you?" So, on January 9th, 1836, just 11 days after the Treaty of Echota?
New Echota is what I would say.
New Echota?
Yeah, Echota.
Okay, so just 11 days after the Treaty of New Echota was signed, DeKalb County was officially created by the Alabama legislature. What'd I say?
Legislator.
Say
A
that.
legislator is a person. A legislature is a body. DeKalb
And
County
what
was
a body.
DeKalb County was one of 3 counties in Alabama formed from the Cherokee Land Cession of 1835. The county gets its name from Baron Johann Sebastian DeKalb, a hero of the American Revolutionary War, and its county seat, Fort Payne, took its name from a fort built during the tragic forced removal of Native Americans along the Trail of Tears.
Now, that's what they had on some sources on the internet, but I really think that is not true because Payne is spelled wrong.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's,
it's Payne is Payne. Oh, you didn't check your sources? You didn't check your sources? What kind of an outline is this?
Have you
Campbell?
talked to Campbell? Yeah. You try his soup lately? So I think that that's some dude's name, and they wouldn't name it Fort Payne. That's just no. But I mean, that's ridiculous.
Pain.
Right. But I mean, like, weirder things have happened, like show me a scalp and I'll give you a shirt. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the Treaty of New Echota, and that's actually pivotal to this story, that whole thing.
That whole thing. We know about this treaty. We've talked about this treaty.
Do you want to just summarize it? 1835, tell me about the Treaty of New Echota.
No, I like it when you do things.
Okay. The Treaty of New Echota was signed on December 29th, 1835, when the U.S. government met with some Cherokee representatives, about 500, in fact, and they met in New Echota, Georgia. And these 500 Cherokee representatives said that they were speaking for the entire Cherokee Nation. The Cherokee Nation had about 16,000 members in it. And these 500 representatives agreed to a deal with the U.S. government. And the deal was that in exchange for $5 million and land in what is now Oklahoma, the Cherokees agreed to give up 7 million acres of their ancestral homeland. The U.S. government also promised to help the Cherokee move to their new territory.
Now,
we did talk about this, right, in 124, because it was a great deal.
It was a great deal.
It was land, it was money, it was even help moving expenses.
I mean, everyone hates moving.
Everybody hates moving. Yeah, exactly. We talked about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure about like the whole thing with the 16,000 members of the Cherokee Nation, but I think I would be a signer.
Well, I was wondering, so were these 500 chosen in some way? Were they elected? Was there an election?
Okay.
Was there like...
There's like... This is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Okay.
Okay. All right,
so
sorry.
the 500 Cherokee representatives were something called the Treaty Party or the Ridge Party.
Ooh.
Now, yes. So if you called it the Ridge Party, it was because of Major Ridge, who
is that, Jill?
He was a pivotal, important member of the Cherokee Nation. He was like John Ross's bud, and he helped John Ross like build the nation and everything.
Wow.
But you don't hear about Major Ridge, do you?
No, I never have.
Nope. He was born in Cherokee Town, now part of Tennessee, and was a prominent figure whose legacy reflected in his name. He was a warrior at a young age, and he was known by several titles. Rich with meaning.
Each rich
with meaning. Among them, do not ask me how to say, oh, this is so bad. I'm going to spell it for you.
No, you're not.
I'm going
It looks
to.
like it. Let me just try to read it. It looks like a Cherokee word that we're going to slaughter. So, spoiler alert, and we're not trying to slaughter it.
Nu ni hai di hai.
That's as close as I would get. And that translates to he who slays the enemy in his path.
Damn.
Wow.
Damn.
And also, Ganondaleji, meaning the man who walks on the mountaintop, or simply what, Jill?
The ridge.
The Ridge. So we're going to call him the Ridge. Ooh.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
He's pretty impressive. His name's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you're the ridge.
Right.
Like, what up, brah? You know what I mean? Like, that's
Right.
cool. Like,
we
I'm
would
the
be
ridge.
something like, or I would be something like she who falls off Ridge. Because I'm super clumsy and I always get worried.
You're
like,
not
in
as
heights.
clumsy as I. Okay,
you are
wouldn't-
clumsier.
I am more clumsy than you. You just get lightheaded. You're a delicate flower. She
You
who
get
faints
lightheaded.
on ridge.
I have to eat every few hours.
Now, he received the name Major while fighting with General Andrew Jackson at the Battle
What?
of Horseshoe Bend during the Creek War in 1814. So again,
Okay.
he was with John Ross fighting with Andrew motherfucking Jackson. And you know what? I haven't forgotten about you, Andrew Jackson. Fuck you.
Okay.
There, I said it. He just used Major as his first name for the rest of his life because he
Adorable.
liked it.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So Major Ridge,
Uh-huh.
a Cherokee planter, a soldier,
Yes.
along with his son John Ridge and nephew Ellis. What's that last name?
Elias Boudinot. It's French, trust me.
It's nice. Engaged in the negotiations with the United States despite the widespread opposition from the Cherokee Nation.
Uh-oh.
Principally led by our guy, Chief
John Ross. Uh-oh. So wait a minute.
Yep.
What you're telling me is this group of 500, led by the Ridge Party, kind of went rogue and and met with the U.S. government on behalf of the 16,000 in their nation who did not agree with what they were doing. Gotcha.
Well, okay. We're going to get into this later. But yes, what you said is putting a button on it. And exactly. They just like, Chief John Ross, he out
Yeah.
of his goddamn mind. We need to take this deal. They're going to get 2 men in a truck to help us move. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
So
And-
that was the Ridge Party's perspective on it.
But Chief John Ross strongly opposed their actions, and he sought to block the treaty party led by Ridge. And on May 28th, 1830, Ridge and his faction worked to finalize the terms. So it took them 5 years to work in opposition to Chief John Ross and finalize the terms of the treaty, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Another notable member of the Ridge Party was Andrew Ross.
Andrew Ross,
Andrew.
is he related to Chief John Ross?
He is his little brother.
Shut
8 years younger. Yep.
Shut up. I bet he was
So it-
annoying.
Rude. What are you basing that on?
Experience with younger siblings.
So, in 1835, Andrew Ross, along with other members of the Ridge Party, signed that treaty. Signed it
In direct opposition to the chief, John Ross.
to his brother and chief.
Now, many sources claim that the Treaty of New Dakota was the cause of the Trail of Tears because the U.S. government used it to justify the forced removal of the Cherokee Nation from their ancestral lands. So in
That
other
is
words,
all over the internet today.
really, that this treaty was the reason for the Trail of Tears.
Yes.
Wow. Which supports the view of John Ross, the chief, right? Who was in opposition to the Treaty of New Dakota. Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Discussion?
Yes, please.
Discussion? Let's
Yes.
have a discussion about it.
Okay, please start.
So, Andrew,
Yes.
John Ross's little bro.
Annoying
who is
little brother.
We don't know if he was annoying.
He would trust me.
was a signer and at very least a supporter of the treaty that John was fighting against. And it ultimately today is being the source, the precipice of the Trail of Tears.
Okay. You kind of made up a word there, but I'm just going to go with you there.
Okay, thank you.
And that's how history chooses to remember it. However, Jill, I really feel like our voiceless in this story has a differing opinion and isn't shy about it.
Girl, this man's pissed.
He dead and angry.
Is so pissed. So guess who our voiceless is?
Oh, could it be Andrew Ross?
It is. It's the little brother who isn't annoying, but is strong in his convictions. And his older brother just couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle it, Jennifer.
Okay.
So Andrew Ross was born on December 19th, 1798 in
Chickamauga,
near Lookout Mountain in the Cherokee Nation East. In an area known as Chattanooga, Hamilton County, Tennessee.
Yes. Like his brother John, he and Andrew were both the sons of Daniel Ross and Molly McDonald, who we remember was a woman of Cherokee heritage from the Bird Clan.
Which is so, I just love that.
I know. And it's important to note that the Cherokee traditionally trace lineage through the maternal line. And so that meant that all of the children were Cherokee by blood.
True. Although they looked white.
You know what? I was looking at pictures of Andrew, and Andrew looks more Cherokee than his brother John. Like John, you look at him, and he looks like he could be from Europe. But Andrew, look at those cheekbones. Look him up.
I didn't find any pictures of Andrew.
Oh my God, he is totally there, and he looks Cherokee. He looks like he's Cherokee with a white, like George Washington wig on. It's hot.
You had me before the white George Washington wig. I wouldn't do the George Washington wig, but he was a Supreme Court justice, so that's probably why he was wearing
Cherokee Supreme Court.
Yes,
right, this Cherokee Supreme Court. They probably copied off the U.S. Supreme Court.
Stop saying that.
Daniel,
when are you going to learn?
Daniel and Molly had 8 children. John Ross, of course, was an older brother. He became the prominent Cherokee chief and leader of the Cherokee Nation. And Andrew arrived 8 years after him. Now,
Andrew was serving on the Supreme Court from Don't you. From 1828 to 1830, the Cherokee Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the Cherokee Nation.
Right. He was also a member, like we said, of the Ridge Party, known as the Treaty Party. The group that supported Jill. This group supported the relocation of the Cherokee people to Indian Territory west of the Mississippi River in modern-day Oklahoma in exchange for $5 million in financial compensation and other benefits.
Now, we already know, like we said, that the Ridge Party, the Treaty Party, was in direct opposition of the Chief Ross.
Yes, we do. We know that. We know this. Before signing the treaty in 1835, Major Ridge was one of the most important leaders of the Cherokee Nation. Did you know that? I did not. And Major Ridge is, of course, good friends with Andrew Ross, because they were both part of the same party. The Ridge signing party.
I don't know if they were good friends, but Andrew looked up to him, and he was like, you're cool. My brother's kind of a dick, but I like you. I like your thoughts on things. You know how older brothers are dicks. Anyway, so he was like one of the most important leaders of the Cherokee Nation. Right. He grew up as a traditional hunter-warrior, standing firm against white settlers encroaching on Cherokee land, and he married a fellow Cherokee. Okay, so he's not all like a little in, a little out. Like, he's Cherokee. So him supporting leaving, he must have had a good reason, right?
Must have.
Right. With his military background and impressive command of the Cherokee language, the Ridge, as he was known, quickly rose as a skilled politician. He later purchased enslaved Africans, and I'm so sorry about that, it's so complicated in American history, to work as field laborers, which allowed his family to expand their farmings and operate a full-on plantation.
Now, when the War of 1812 broke out, the Ridge joined General Andrew Jackson's forces against the Creeks and the British in Alabama, as we've already said. And for his bravery at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, he earned the title Major, which he adopted as his first name. Now, after the war,
Ridge and his family started a plantation alongside his friend and fellow politician, John Ross. And he helped create the Cherokee Nation into a government in 1827, modeled after the U.S. government system.
Yeah,
so
they copied. Got it.
Jesus
So they worked
Christ.
together. They worked together to build the components of this Cherokee Nation.
Do you know, because you told me that we as
Jill,
Americans...
let's just move on. Let's just move on.
No, just tell the people, because you only said it in detours. Jennifer was wrong. We copied off the Cherokees.
It was the checks and balances part of the Cherokee government that they put in place that we really liked. Anyway, moving on. Ridge served as a counselor while John Ross became the principal chief, essentially the president of the Cherokee Nation.
Now, the Ridges and many other Cherokees believed they had successfully embraced the civilization
Process. Yeah, well, like we said in episode 124, they weren't barbarians on horses running around shooting people with arrows. These are people who had assimilated into the way of life of the Europeans. They had plantations. They even bought freaking slaves to work them. I mean,
Nothing more American than that.
exactly. So these were essentially people who had assimilated into the culture and were Americans, Cherokee Americans.
So, when Congress passed the Indian Removal Act in 1830 and Georgia rolled out a lottery to give away Indian lands, the Ridges and the rest of the Cherokees were stunned.
Because they're like, wait a
Stunned.
minute. I know, like, by blood we're Cherokee, but we're American and we're living like you guys, right?
Right. So what's the
Exactly.
problem here?
Georgians began illegally taking over Cherokee homes, businesses, and plantations, sometimes by force. And the Ridge saw one of two choices: either negotiate or be forced off the lands, inevitably. And believing that it was best to negotiate on behalf of his people to prevent bloodshed, Ridge organized the Treaty, or the Ridge Party. And he and his party supported being compensated for their lands and their property, and with the help of the U.S. government, move out west. I mean, Jill, that makes a lot of sense.
If they're already acting like they're mob controlled, like taking over businesses and plantations, if that's already happening,
Yeah.
then I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing it anyway.
Right.
They're doing it anyway.
So the Ridge and Andrew Ross signed the Treaty of New Dakota, although technically they did not have the support of Andrew's older brother, the chief of the Cherokee Nation, John Ross.
See, now, this is a thing. I know we said earlier that, like, John Ross was a strict opposition, and he probably was. But I don't think that the Ridge and Andrew went behind John Ross's back. I think they had conversations. They were probably sitting in, like, an office being like, hey, John, this is already happening.
Right.
We assimilated, we created all these court systems. We're trying to be members of this society, and they're taking our shit anyway. And John Ross was like, nope, I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. I won't do it. And it's like, I would sign it too. Be like, oh, people are gonna get hurt.
Yeah. So even though Ridge and his supporters valued their property,
And they
did-
submitted their valuations to the U.S. government, got money, and the U.S. government was like, great, here's your money. Let's take you west. Let's get the U-Haul. Let's load you up.
while Chief John Ross and others tried to block the treaty's implementation.
Now, as we know, Chief Ross failed.
Chief
And
John
that-
Ross failed.
Yeah. He failed in a hard way. And that failure resulted in the forced removal of the Cherokee people. The military carried it out under brutal conditions in the winter of 1838 through 1839, and over 4,000 Cherokees died on what is known as the Trail of Tears.
Right. And The Ridge and Andrew Ross were a part of the early movers who took
Right.
the money and took the support of the U.S. government and moved out west to Oklahoma 5 years before the Trail of Tears happened.
Right.
And we're
So-
established. We're established there in Oklahoma.
They created businesses. They had a life.
Yep.
Everything. They were doing fine. And then all of a sudden, 5 years later, the saddest parade comes to town with dying people.
And John Ross, who wants to now suddenly lead all of these people who are doing fine without him for 5 years.
Right. Right.
Wow. Okay, that kind of
And
puts that
all
in perspective.
salty as fuck because he failed. He failed. His politics failed. Anyway.
And I mean, let's talk about the Trail of Tears. Jill, what happened following the
Well,
Trail of Tears?
So after the Trail of Tears, which
Right.
everyone that made it through that horrible condition of walking thousands of miles to friggin' Oklahoma, they get there and John Ross is like, okay, guys, I'm here now. Your chief's here. Let's start rebuilding society. That is how they build it. But what really, in my perspective, and I'm doing this psychically, it was more like, I'm here now. Like, you guys are going to listen to me again. I'm in charge. And it's like, dude, you already, like, you shouldn't be our chief anymore. Look what just happened. Look at these people. Your
Right.
own wife died. You made the wrong call, bro.
Right. And so, of course, there were major internal conflicts, a huge schism with the people who took the money and, were supporters of the treaty. And then John Ross and the movers in 5 years later who were like, okay, let's rebuild. And they're like, rebuild? Like, we have something going now and you caused this. And so
You
why are
have
we going to
nothing.
follow you? Right.
You came with nothing.
Right.
You came with nothing. You're encroaching on the shit that we already built for 5 years, and you're telling me that you're still my chief? Look at you. Go on. Sorry.
Okay, so Jill, what happened? What happened to Ridge, and what happened to Andrew, and what happened to all of these players once John Ross and his sad Trail of Tears Cherokee enter Oklahoma?
There is fighting
Yeah.
in a big way. And I think when you and I were talking about this earlier, you were really, really affected by the fouling. So I feel like that you should have at it and just go off. Do your thing.
Well, first of all, I want to say that it's really impossible. It really is. It is impossible to find any information on what that conflict, that internal Cherokee conflict in Oklahoma looked like. Not any Cherokee resource details like how that exactly went down, okay? But we do have some facts. On June 22nd, 1839, the Ridge, the warrior, the leader of the Ridge Party, friend of Andrew Ross, the Ridge, was ambushed and killed by some of John Ross's supporters. He was traveling through town. Actually, he was out of town. And the ambushers had information about where he was headed. And there were 5 men who hid out alongside the road in trees. 5 men, 5 guns. And as he rode along this path, all 5 men shot him. 5 bullets into the Ridge, and he slumped over his saddle, and that's how he died. This attack was in retaliation for Ridge's role in the treaty and the resulting Trail of Tears tragedy. What? That can't be right.
That is right.
So they were actually blaming the Ridge for the tragedy?
Yeah. They were blaming anyone who was already on the land for the tragedy.
You might remember that the Ridge's son was also involved in the Ridge Party, remember?
Yep. And his nephew.
Yeah. Wasn't his name John Ridge?
Mm-hmm. And then the French name, Ellis.
Elias. Yeah. So I can tell you that we do have the information about what happened to the Ridge's son, John Ridge. And it's horrific. And so if you are a sensitive listener, you might want to fast forward this because this is unbelievable. The supporters of John Ross went into his home in the middle of the night while he was sleeping, put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. But the trigger didn't work. The gun was stuck. So they pulled him out of his bed and stabbed him dozens of times, and then kicked and beat him still alive until he expired. Yeah. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. Jill, what happened to Andrew Ross, the brother of John Ross and cohort of the Ridge and the Ridge's son? What happened to him?
Well, Jennifer, I'm sorry to report that Andrew passed away on November 10th, 1844 in Oklahoma at the age of 45. He was laid to rest in Stillwell, Oklahoma. His murder was another tragic consequence to the lingering resentment surrounding the signing of the treaty.
Okay, hold up. What do we know about the murder of Andrew Ross?
See, funny thing about this, we don't know anything, but his gravestone says Andrew Ross killed this day. And then beneath that, it says signer of the Treaty of
Echota. So does anyone else find this fishy? That I know exactly what happened to the Ridge and the Ridge's son, but the brother of John Ross, it's a big question mark, like what actually happened? How did he die? Who murdered him? Under what circumstances? Like nobody knows. It was just
you
lost.
You can't find it. It's just lost. It's. I would say it was covered up. I don't think it was lost.
I would say it was cover up too, Jill.
Yeah, I think it was covered up.
Why do you think it was covered up? They didn't cover up the Ridge. The Ridge information.
It's like Michael Corleone killing Fredo.
Because his brother probably did it. Yeah. And John Ross is so celebrated.
Yep.
So people don't want to put out there, and he murdered his brother.
Right.
Because he is like this big celebrated dude for fighting for Cherokee rights. You can't find any shit talking about John Ross. And so, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know, Jennifer. So the Cherokee people, it didn't stop. There was fighting throughout the Civil War. Some people wanted to be with the Confederacy. Some people wanted to be part of the Union. It was a whole thing. And in the 1880s, the Cherokee Nation struggled for self-governance, and it came to a decisive end with it being defeated by Congress. So all John Ross's bullshit, all his fighting, all his trying to cozy up to the U.S. government didn't work. And they're like, no, you're not a self-governing nation. 100% you're not. We're putting an end to this bullshit. Congress of the United States. So
is that what the letter said?
Yes.
Okay. Thoughts, Jill?
Whew. John Ross and Christopher Columbus are the most celebrated failures in the history of this country at the detriment of the indigenous people.
And I would love to look at other celebrated failures in history on our detours. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Not just American celebrated failures, but worldwide. I think that'll be fun. And maybe we can tap into them psychically.
What do you think about John Ross being so celebrated even today? He really did fail. And we had this conversation on the first episode. Like he did everything wrong.
Yeah.
He just kept fighting.
I know. I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's untouchable, but I'll tell you what. His brother's pissed. And
he's so pissed.
He's pissed. I'm telling you, Andrew Ross blames his brother for the bloodshed. Andrew
Yes.
Ross thinks he himself is unfairly blamed for the Trail of Tears, because the Trail of Tears wouldn't have happened if the Cherokee banded together and took the deal, and together took the deal and all moved, and set up their government correctly all together, instead of having more than half drag their asses, right, and then be forcibly removed under deadly, tragic circumstances. And I'm with Andrew on this.
I'm with Andrew on it too, but I also think it's adding insult to injury, the fact that the United States today blames the treaty as the reason for the Trail of Tears. No. And it's very easy to say, oh, well, this treaty is the reason why we had to evacuate these people. No, you guys were doing it anyway. So to celebrate John Ross is almost to whitewash the fact that the Trail of Tears happened at the bequest of Andrew Jackson and a lot of the white settlers. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I do want to say,
What?
if John Ross really listened, really had a conversation where it was like, these things are happening to your people.
Right.
If you cared about your people, you will find a way to protect them. And this treaty not only protects them, but compensates them and sets them up in a better situation than they would be if they stayed here. And for whatever reason, John Ross couldn't let that shit go.
Right.
Even after getting to Oklahoma, he was still fighting to be like, we're a self-nation. And it really is like, to who? For what? What are you doing? What are you doing? It was more about him than about the people.
Right.
And that's fucked up, John Ross. And that's why your brother's mad. And you probably had him killed. And that's fucked up too. And I really wish that history would get that right, because even when we were recording this first episode, the 124, I said that. I was like, he's a failure.
Yeah.
And you pointed out that there was still infighting.
Yep. And that wasn't part of the original outline. That was something that I brought in because I felt compelled to talk about that conflict. And I think it was Andrew. I think it was. And I think it was too. And I think Andrew blames his brother because he was blinded by his own ego. He was going to stand up and on this soapbox of principle and fight to the detriment of the people that he was supposed to be protecting.
Right.
So I'm with Andrew on this one. I don't know. Might be controversial. I mean, John Ross is celebrated, Jill. This might be a controversial thing to say, but I mean, we have to say it. That's our compact with Spirit. Andrew's coming through, and that's what he thinks.
I know.
He said what he said.
I think it's very convenient for the narrative to be John Ross as a savior and the Cherokee were brought on the Trail of Tears because of this treaty. I think that's a very easy, convenient thing to say. It takes the United States government off the hook, doesn't it?
Right. And not only that, the leaders and the martyrs of the Ridge Party or the Treaty Party, their names have been completely overlooked purposefully. And and no justice for their murders.
I wonder, because I guess we can probably find the treaty if we really wanted to and see who signed it and find out how many of those 500 people were dead and what happened to their property and what they got from the United States government when they forfeited their lands.
Jill, can you imagine how long it would take to have 500 freaking people sign a piece of paper? That must have been the longest, most frustrating experience. And you know what? The Ridge, I read this, the Ridge couldn't sign his name. He didn't. So maybe it was quicker. Maybe they all just made X's. All right, forget it. That wouldn't take so long. All right, moving on.
We'll never know their names.
We'll never. Oh my gosh, that's so sad. We'll never know their names.
Yeah, honestly, I'm with the Ridge. I'm with Andrew. Andrew, you're right. Your brother was a dick. I'm so sorry.
All right. So, Jill, tell me why your recycling call and all that recycling talk, the boring recycling talk is pertinent.
Got to the recycling plant in Fort Payne. And we're like, oh my God, it's a recycling plant. And that made us want to stay in the area and check it out.
That's true. So it's almost like recycling took us to Fort Payne.
Mm-hmm.
What about good music comes out of Alabama?
You are going to flip your shit.
Okay.
The band Alabama
Yeah.
comes out of Fort Payne.
Shut up.
Swear to God.
That's major. That puts a button on the fact that we were meant to find a story in Fort Payne.
Absolutely. And don't
Tell
know
me.
any of this. So I know the band Alabama, don't know
Sure.
any of the songs. Don't know.
Okay. What about plantation vibes? Oh. We talked about plantations. Andrew had a plantation. The Ridge had a plantation. Everybody had a
But
plantation.
Andrew's plantation is still in Fort Payne.
Shut up right now.
Yes, the house was renovated and added on to, but it's still there. It's called the
Wow.
Cherokee Plantation.
Why am I so psychic? Why?
Why
I
are
can't
you
even
so
help-
psychic?
I can't help it.
Oh my gosh.
A strong connection to the land. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, and everyone wanted that land.
Everybody wanted the land.
Everyone wanted the land.
Oh, and do you think when I was picking up on a fierce fighter that was known for not only bravery, but it was also bilingual? Who do you think it was?
I think it was Major Ridge, and I
think it
kind
was
of feel
Major
like you
Ridge,
were.
too.
I kind of feel like he gave York a run for his money. I think you're kind of into him. A fierce fighter, really?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Not like a brave warrior. You're like a fierce fighter. I think he's speaking a different language. I love a man with an accent.
Anyway, thank you for helping me bring Andrew's side of the story here. I think this is important. I think it's an important viewpoint.
Counterpoint.
Yes.
I think it's a valid counterpoint from a spirit that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to re-listen to 124 because we really did not know about this story
know.
until we researched it. And that is crazy.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I do have some shout outs.
Shout.
Okay. I just have to say thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are listening to this, thank you. We love our listeners. We need you. We need you to fuel us, to keep us going. I don't think we've ever said this before, but Jill and I, we don't get paid for doing Common Mystics. We make some money off of Patreon, which we are so grateful for because that pays for the subscriptions we need. It offsets our travel expenses
And Brian.
and our editing. Yes, yes. But we don't get paid. And so when you leave us positive reviews, when you write to us, when you send us emails and messages, that's what keeps us going. I feel like we're paid with that positive energy that you send. And I just want to shout out to some people who really, really made our day when we recently found their messages. So thank you, Lily Macy. We appreciate that you are sharing our podcast with people and your friends. And thank you, Emma Mitchell, who has listened to all of our episodes 3 times now.
Emma.
Holy cow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to Lally, Lali. Thank you to Pam Lillisley. Thank you to Ellie Berry. So glad that you like the mini meditations. By the way, we will be moving the mini meditations to our Patreon tier 3 soon. And thank you, Monica Salling and Andrea Brandt Chapaton and everyone else who has left us a recent message. It just fuels our fire and makes us want to keep pushing through and keep producing, creating, and finding these stories and telling them to you.
You know what else fuels your fire?
What?
You've been geeked on these classes you've been giving.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
geeked.
We are doing a great psychic development class right now. It's going so well. I'm so grateful for the participants. If you are interested in maybe taking a psychic development class in the future, or actually, if you want me to form one just for you and your friends, that's how this one got started. So reach out to us if you are interested in learning more about psychic development classes. What else, Jill?
I just want to say, check us out on all our socials at Common Mystics Podcast. Find us at our website, commonmystics.net, where you can schedule a reading eventually if we get that button fixed. But until then, DM us, and we would love to have a reading done for you.
Thank you so much for listening. We love you and we appreciate you.
Love you.
Bye.
This has been a Common Mystics Media production. Editing done by Yokai Audio, Kalamazoo, Michigan.